Okay, we're doing this outside again this time because, it's just such beautiful weather. It's like 70 degrees today, not as hot as it was yesterday, but definitely gorgeous. And speaking of gorgeous, we're having us a special show today because we have Anne Flosnik, the lovely lady from across the sea, whose parents are originally from the same place that we're from. And she's just, she's kind of a lady after my own heart, says me, being Feely. Yeah, but Feely, she's got to make her choice between the four of us. She can't just have you because, you are like 5 times her age and you've got a funny looking beard and, maybe you're just not everything that she thinks you should be. Well, what are you talking about, Berthold? You may not be anything that she's looking for either. Yeah, well, we'll just see what nature brings us, and we'll have a competition, maybe. That's what it is. Well, at any rate, Basil has to interview the young lady, so we'll just listen to the interview and see what happens after that. And best of luck, may the best man win. In other words, I see you guys later, because I'm sure I got a date. Anyway, well, let's, the dog is out here shouting and screaming to throw the ball some more, so we're going to throw the ball some more. Yep, there he goes right there. And, the nice thing about doing this outside is the noise floor might not be floory enough, but it sure is nice outside in the fresh air. So here we go with Basil interviewing Anne Flosnik for Voices in My Head, episode 16. Have a good show.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, today I've got Anne Flosnik coming from the East Coast to the Northwest Arctic, up here where I'm at, here on Voices in My Head. Anne has over 233 titles on Audible. She's been doing this for quite a while, and she's a wonderful narrator. And I got a chance to meet her in real life over at APAC, which that was pretty awesome. I loved meeting all the people there, and you were one of the bright people that was just happy and sparkly and fun to be around. So, Anne, welcome to the show. So,
thank you. Lovely to be here.
So, you've been narrating for quite a while. How did you get started in this process?
Well, I decided once both my children were born that I possibly had another career in me, and I didn't know what it was. So I started a whole voyage of discovery type of thing. I worked nights, and my husband worked nights, and the nights he didn't work, I did. So I didn't take anything away from my nursing, and I was a obstetrical nurse. So let me see. When you're a nurse, you have to do these CEUs, continuing education credits, and on the doorstep along came this advertisement for a presentation about the lateral skills that you had as a nurse that you could transfer to other careers. And it was presented by a lady that was one of the first entrepreneurs in the 90s. And I went, having not knowing that I was going to find a whole nother path that I was going to follow. Anyway, in the course of her presentation, she mentioned a book about home-based businesses. And in the book was an address for a cosmetic company that was kind of home parties. And I thought that might be a nice thing to do, just to get around and meet people and make presentations and so forth. Through doing that, and I was very fearful of driving in a car and going anywhere that I wasn't familiar with, all those kinds of things. So I learned a lot that stood me in good stead in a business sense, and it connected me to the acting world as I went along with it. Because to make it work, I joined a networking group, and at the networking group, I met a hypnotist.
A hypnotist?
Who didn't hypnotize me, but she was on a public access TV program. And she said, why don't you come down and, you'll be interviewed about what you do. So I went, and then I found out you had to audition for this, and I met other actors, and I just kept my mouth shut and, just kind of play along like I've been doing this all my life, just like everybody else. And, but I did ask a lot of questions. So, I did that, and yes, I was one of the chosen ones. And then through going down to the station, there was another TV magazine program called Eye on Beauty, and I had to audition for that. A very unusual audition in that it had an audience. And of course, not that I'd had many auditions. I think that was maybe my second one. And what it was, I had to interview a gentleman who owned a weight training establishment. So anyway, to do that, you had to walk up on the stage and sit in the chair and interview your the person that you had to interview. And at the end of it, I shook his hand, I stood up, and they applauded me. And it was in that moment when I heard that applause that I thought, oh my goodness, I really like this. And I've got to find out how to get connected into all of this thing, because I feel like I'm getting a sign. So from the auditioning and so forth, talking to the other actors, I found out you had to get a headshot. I mean, it was totally green. Headshot, resume, and how do you do this? And join the Actors Centre, this marvelous local acting organisation run by volunteers. But it was just a one-stop shop for getting connected into all things acting. Through that, I found my voice coach, because I figured, let's develop my accent for whatever it's worth. It was some little bit of a different point of differentiation. And anyway, through him, and there was a hotline at the Actors Centre that gave different jobs every week, and you would call the 1-800 number and listen to what they had for that week. One week that I called in, they were looking for Library of Congress audiobook narrators to work in the studio on a regular basis if you were cast. So I followed the directions for that, and the Library of Congress sent me a list of what I had to do, which was basically get a demo together with a non-fiction piece and a fiction piece demonstrating that I could do men's voices. And I showed that to my voice coach, and he helped me choose the material and taped it for me, and we sent it in. And then pretty shortly after that, they called and said, come down to the studio and do what you sent in on the tape. So I did that, and that was in July of 1995, and I didn't hear anything for months and months and months. But I thought to myself, well, that was awfully brave, because I was such a timid person. I wouldn't know myself probably now if I met myself all those years ago. It was a huge step just to do it and to sit there and to try, and I'm sure they could see I was shaking like a leaf, but try not to make people feel uncomfortable, because I didn't know what I was doing. So I just kept all that to myself and read my two pieces, and left. So when I got the call, it was in February, and they said, are you still interested, because we have a book for you? So I jumped, and said, oh, absolutely, and went down to the studio. And it turned out the day that I was to go was in a snowstorm, almost a blizzard. And I'm in Virginia, and this was in Bethesda, Maryland. So to get there on a good day, it's about an hour to travel to the metro, and then another hour on the metro, and then a little bit of a walk, not too much. So I went in the snowstorm, and when I got there was only me and the national recruiter, Chris Walker, and he put me through my paces and told me all the things I would need to know, and we started recording this book, which was, I don't remember what the name of it was. It was just a regular fiction book, but what it had was several either men or women on a page, and I just could not differentiate between them, because I didn't know then what I know now, that it really takes very little. You just almost have to see them or go by their physical characteristics. So I've made all those notes and I see them, but I didn't know that then. And I wasn't able to do it. So they said, well, we're awfully sorry, Anne, we see great potential in you and you're fun to be around, but this isn't working out with this book. So how about we give you a non-fiction book, and then you can learn as you go along, and it would be so difficult to manage. So that was what I did, and the book that they gave me was Simple and Healthy Cookery by Jacques Pépin. And they told me, when you finish this book, it will be reviewed word for word, and here are our approved sources that you go to do your research to look up all these exotic vegetables and things. And I thought to myself, who on earth is ever going to listen to this word for word? But they did. And when the book was finished and it had been reviewed, I had 60 pages of corrections. And they weren't just 60 pages, Basil, let me tell you. They were, just to give an example, jalapeno, if that's the correct way that you say it, I'd have to look it up again. I might have 10 of those on the first line. So jalapeno times 10. And then on, and there might be, say, 25 things per page, and they might be times 30. So there were more corrections.
So each page was like incrementally larger than itself. Oh.
Absolutely, yes, yes.
Exponentially,
so
that was what I was for, exponentially larger.
I knew what you meant. Yeah. So I learned the hard way, and that was in the days of tape. So not only did I have to get the pronunciation correct, but it had to fit in the exact same space that it had occupied when you said it incorrectly. So, you know,
cut and paste back.
It was a huge learning curve. That's right.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. That sounds challenging. But you overcame it.
Yes. Yep. Well, I didn't have any choice because I really wanted to do it. And I was the little engine that wanted to rather than the little engine that could. But by Jove, I don't think, well, most things in the commercial world wouldn't faze me after what I had to read there. I read everything from Norton History of Chemistry, magazines. You just read such a broad array of things that you would never read, and many of the things that I would, anything that was foreign too, you kind of got, that an American person wouldn't necessarily be cast for.
Right.
Because once you're on staff, you went every week, and you went as many times as you either wanted to or they wanted you. And it started off, I think I only went once a week, but then I ended up going 3 times a week. And at the end of it, or not too far into the process, instead of just doing one session, which at that time was 2 hours and 40 minutes, I would do 3 a day. Mm. So I got strong,
and getting that stamina.
Yes, and very experienced. And you were recorded by a monitor, so that was one person. There was no direction, so I got very comfortable with doing my own research and not directing myself, but there was nobody was giving guidance as to how the thing was to be read. It was just, here it is, and make sure it's pronounced correctly, and you give it your best. Mm. So by the time I got into the commercial world, and my very first commercial book, in the studio that I recorded, there was a downstairs department that did commercial work, and sometimes, this wasn't often, I mean, this might be 1 book a year or something, certainly at the beginning. And sometimes you would have to audition for the things too. But one of the first books I did was The Wheel on the School, and that won an award. And I thought, that must be another sign. Right. So keep on, because there's so many times, this isn't easy, and certainly over the long haul, it's not easy. You have to have a lot of determination, and you have to really want to do it. So I just kind of kept on going, and I took my signs and so forth where they came. And at first it was very slow. Like I say, 1 commercial book a year. I was looking back at my resume. I think, and Brilliance was the very first company that gave me, yes, yeah, Max Bloomquist, thank you very much. He gave me my first book from just kind of writing into a publisher. It was the first book that I did on my own. And I was connected with one of their most popular authors right from the get-go, and have worked with her books pretty much exclusively since then, which was a good thing. But really it was slow, and looking back at the resume, I think 2005 was a breakthrough year where I had 10 books, 10 whole books. So you can see how slow this was.
Right.
And it kind of went on that way until 2008, when Tanto Audio, another one of my great companies, gave me Little B. And we're in email now, because I can remember getting the email and seeing what that book was asking of me, and could I do it? And I thought, well, I don't know. Because it was a book about a Nigerian teenager, and all the blurb about the book was about the way that she spoke. But seeing as we were told that she learned how to speak English from reading the Times newspaper, I thought it's anybody's guess, and at least I'm English, so I'm kind of connected to the Commonwealth in some way. And it was a book that I knew I had the heart for.
Mm.
And it's actually, I think, you know, kind of as you go along in your career, you have to know what you're selling.
Right.
And by that point, I did know what I was selling. At the beginning, you don't. You just, you know, you have to. I was lucky to be exposed to a huge amount of material, but it becomes apparent to you what you're being cast for, and really, you know, what's in your heart.
Mm-hmm.
What are the stories that you find easiest to tell? And everything that I'm given, I, of course, give my heart and soul to. But there are some things that are just more in tune with who you are without having to add anything to it.
Right.
And that book was a very special book.
Right.
And 3 awards with that one.
Wow. And then
So
things
after
just
that,
took off from there.
yeah, they did. And I couldn't get back into the Library of Congress. So I never really left. And I went on and kept on working from that point.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that is interesting. Now, you mentioned that you had a voice coach for your native accent.
Yes.
That's
No,
interesting. Or
no. Sorry,
Okay.
I didn't say that clearly. Before I had general acting lessons, I went with a voice coach, really as just for commercial voiceovers, because I don't think there were audiobook narration teachers at that time. Maybe there were, but there weren't locally, or I didn't know about them if there were. So, but he taught just general narration and commercial voiceover type of stuff.
so just general voicing stuff. Because I was picturing maybe you went there, maybe, you know, was your accent, I mean, you mentioned you're from Manchester. Did you have a hard...
Newcastle upon Tyne.
Oh, Newcastle. Okay. Okay. Different accent.
Yep.
But so I was just curious, did you have a harsher accent when you started? Have you worked it out? And how has your native accent impacted your reading or your not your readings? How has your native accent impacted your jobs that you're offered, or, you know, your career in general?
I wouldn't have a career if I didn't have my accent. I wouldn't. I think that's the top and bottom of it.
That just
really,
opened the door for you to get in there.
It did. It really did. So the voice coach did nothing with my accent. And the first books that I read more in my natural northern accent.
Mm-hmm.
But as I went along and I'm listening to what everybody else is doing, I thought it was probably better to adopt some kind of an RP style of speech. But it's turned out that accents of many kinds are just one of my stronger suits. And because it really isn't enough to be an English person speaking even one English accent. And it's kind of a given if you are an English narrator that you can do all the accents of the British Isles. My parents were Irish, so I have that. So I'm in good company with your leprechauns.
All right.
Yeah. My maiden name is O'Grady, and my parents came from Ireland. So they came from Ireland to England. So I'm a first generation English person.
So you actually
in
grew
my
up
family.
listening to them speaking Irish accent at home.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. So that's an accent that I'm very comfortable with. And the reason I was cast for Running with the Bulls, my years with the Hemingways, written by Valerie Hemingway, who was a girl from Dublin. So I did that with a very mild Irish accent, and that was another award winner. So
Nice.
So what I'm trying to say is that, in my opinion, what helped me was not just being English, but being a good mimic, and being able to just turn your hand to many other accents.
Right.
Just
Yeah. There are some narrators who don't touch accents. Talking to some of them, Scott Brick was one who said he tries not to. That's just his style, totally different. Other narrators, really would like to get it right. In your opinion, how hard should a person try to mimic that accent if they can't get it necessarily? Because sometimes you hear an accent, because I'm a voracious listener as well, and there's some that I think, oh, the guy should not have tried. He's from Texas. He should have stayed Texas. And here he is doing Scotland or something, and it sounds like a drunk Texan. So
I hear you. You'll probably know as you start your career, because before I ever was thought about acting, and I should have said years ago, before I started on nursing, I did write to the BBC, and I got some very nice letter that basically told me to forget it, and I forget what it was for, but I've always been a reacher, if you will. But naturally I have a very good ear, and I'm a mimic, and I was very much influenced by impressionists. There was one called Mike Yarwood, which will date me, and Dick Emery and Mike Yarwood, and I just loved those shows that were on every week, and the characters that they created, and I would imitate their impressions, and then I would do some of my own. That was really the genesis of it, and I think where accents are concerned, and that style and so forth, that's something that's innate. You either want to do that, or you just say hands off. That's not my bag of tricks. I'm not going there. But even when you do them, it's very subjective always as to how it's perceived that you did. So it's always best to have a lighter hand if you do approach it, in any case. And remember that, but no matter what you do, what you start with on day one, you have to sustain, be it good, bad, or indifferent. It's got to sound somewhat similar.
Right.
You can't suddenly really get it all right by the second day. You've got to really sustain what you start.
Right. So your character doesn't, start the story with an accent from South London and gradually become Geordie as he's going along,
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Interesting. Now, you do both audiobook and commercial voiceover. How do you compare the two?
Not so much the commercial voiceover now, because there just isn't time for it. But well, actually, before audiobooks got to be pretty much all I do, I had 3 full acting resumes because I did a lot of on-camera stuff as well. So they're all very different disciplines. They all require something different of you. And I would say of them all, audiobooks are very, very rewarding, but they take the most stamina and they take the most time.
Right.
But you're on your own, by and large.
Yeah, that's what I love about this business, actually. I mean, I've done radio and I've done commercial, and I just like being in a box by myself and having all the voices come out of my mouth. It feels like being the king, Makes me feel powerful. I control my own world.
That's right.
On your website, you have a pretty good display of samples that are on there. Of your narrations as well as your various different accents. I thought it was pretty cool. I listened to them. I thought, man, you do pretty good. And it's a good job on the mimicry that you've got. You can tell you have a good ear and a good tongue that can repeat what your ears heard. So that's...
Thank you, Basil. That's a great compliment.
Well, I enjoy trying to get those accents right myself. And do you do a lot of research for specific accents in the books, and how do you research that?
Okay. I will give you the example of Anna and the King of Siam, which was the book that The King and I is based on. So, when you get a title like that, you have to be very careful because everybody knows what that king sounds like. I did all my own research for it, all the words, and all the foreign language and so forth, and it escapes me for the moment. But anyway, to do the book, I watched every film that I could find. So I think the first one was with Rex Harrison was the king, and then all the way up to Jodie Foster, who had a much kinder, gentler king. And of course, watched The King and I itself with the fabulous Yul Brynner. And then, with all that research and all those voices in my head, to take your expression, the actual book was very different than the films. But for watching all that and paying close attention to the text, it was kind of a series of vignettes. That was just a very good book that my mimicry or whatever served me well, because I shouldn't really diminish it by saying it's mimicry, but it's just that you can lend yourself to other realities or,
Right.
other countries and not make it sound like it's terribly laborious.
Right. Right. And make it just feel natural, flow out of you. Yeah.
Right,
Almost
right,
like channeling,
right.
channeling the spirits of the characters, thinking
Exactly,
through their eyes.
exactly.
Interesting.
That's right.
If you
Yes.
could go back in time, what is something you might do different in your narration career?
It's very hard to say, and I'm not somebody that really likes to second guess. I think
Mm.
you've got to live life going forwards and not looking in the rear view mirror. So I'm going to chicken out on that one, Basil, and say nothing and just
Well,
own.
and that's
own
not, I don't think that's chickening out either. I mean, you look at it and, I'm somewhat of a fatalist, not in a negative sense, but I believe, fate, destiny brings you places. And, like you said earlier, it just this happenstance where you got on camera and people clapped for you and something went click and then you move forward. And then, you started in those books or with the Library of Congress early on. And as each of those things progresses, there's not necessarily a need for regrets in the past because whatever it was in the past that happened brought you to the place that you are today. So
Exactly,
that's,
exactly. And make no mistake about this career above, well, I mean, any kind of acting. You've really got to pursue it. And once you've narrated your audiobook, it's out of your hands. You have done your best job. You've done the best research. You've done the very best job day to day, minute by minute. It's gone beyond you, and it will be judged for good or for,
right.
for ill kind of a thing. So the only thing that you can do is just make yourself the very best person to work with that you can. And you keep looking for work while you're working, this type of a thing. And just be 100% reliable and now that we're all working remotely, mostly, I think it's very valuable to look at the whole team. Even though you can't see them, you know that they're there. And I put myself in the other person's shoes and think how they would be feeling entrusting this book to me. They don't, that's my responsibility now, and try and get it done early if it's any way possible. Not to make the quality of the thing suffer, but just anything that I can do to make myself be hired again, within reason, I will do. I think you really have to take charge of your career.
Right.
And you can.
Be proactive.
There are a lot of things that you can do to help yourself.
Yeah. And that, what kind of things would you recommend for a new person coming in like yourself? When you did way back when, it's a different age now with the digital era and everyone working from home studios. What advice would you give if someone walked up to you at a convention or something, or just on the street and said, "Hey, Anne, I really would love to get into audiobooks. How do I do it?" What would you recommend to a person?
Well, the first thing is that wonderful thing that Sean Pratt says about lock yourself up in a cupboard and, read aloud for 8 hours a day or whatever for a week and see how you feel at the end of that. So practice doing some of that. Listen to audiobooks, read books, be observant about what happens in life, about how real people speak. That can be very helpful. Listening to, when I was on the metro, I always would be listening into people's conversations. Obviously watching television shows, films, anything where you are observing how people speak and all those different accents and so forth, and taking notes. Oh, that was, like I saw Invictus, and that was a wonderful South African example of that accent.
Right.
I watched the Last King of Scotland, and I based Little Bee's accent on Forrest Whitaker's performance and what was in my ear from, BBC News, from when I can first remember hearing speech, from the BBC. Be engaged in social media in some way. I mean, I'm somewhat of a dinosaur, I suppose. I just do a little bit, but it does bring dividends. And let people know who you are. And again, think about the casting director, and it may make their job easier if they know that you're a hand gliding enthusiast or whatever it is. That I'm a nurse. That possibly has gotten me work in the past. Have a website. I got a job from a German client for an audiobook that paid for the whole website probably into perpetuity. Oh, and if you can, not that I'm any kind of an expert about these things, but get a website that you can add content to yourself,
Right.
so that you can keep adding on, keep it updated with your books and so forth. Of course, get training from the greats, from Scott Brick, Johnny Heller, Sean Pratt, all these wonderful people. Paul Rubin, of course. Pat Fraley. I mean, there are wonderful teachers, and by being on these Facebook book groups and so forth, as a new person, you will see who the same names keep coming up again and again, and there's a reason for that, because they are the best.
Right. And even though it may seem like, when you look at it, $800 for a couple of days with a guy, or $100 an hour to talk to this guy, what? It is worth it. It is. I mean, it can be it is a total game changer, especially for folks that are just getting started. So.
Exactly. I would also maybe say, because there's no reinventing the wheel in this, I think Scott said in his piece with you about there is a spectrum from kind of fairly neutral to as dramatic as you can be. Find where you are. Find out what you're good at. Know what you're selling.
Right.
So, once you get to the point that you're marketing yourself to publishers, know what you're offering, and give them as many specifics as you can, because, I'm sure that they get tired of hearing from everybody that you can do everything and so on and so forth. But, at the end of the day, there are things that you really are good at, and your soul will sing when you're doing them. So it shouldn't be a mystery as to what you're best at.
Right.
What else do I think of? I think that's quite a bit. And just realize this is a business, and work it like a business, and be business-like.
Right. I think that's a key,
and you're going
especially in the social media, with people getting on, and don't be a jerk on Facebook, because that's going to lose you jobs. So just be nice to people, and use it, and don't go overboard with the advertising. So. Right.
That's exactly right.
Well, let's see here. We went through the questions that I had, and now I've got the Leprechaun brothers. They went over your profile, and they had seen you when we were at APAC. They didn't have tickets to get into the convention themselves, but they're little, and they found their way around. And well, I hope this isn't uncomfortable for you, but they had some questions they wanted to ask. So I'll just let the brothers come in. Feely, come on up. Oh, thank you, boss. We're glad we could be in here. Well, there she is. Look on the screen, fellas. That's Anne Flosnik that we saw over at APAC. Hi, Anne. How are you? Okay. Well, Mrs. Anne, we have some question for you. You're a wonderfully talented person, and you're from our home country, and so we really like that. And my brothers and I have a question for you. Okay. If you're able to change history and do things a little bit differently, would you be willing to marry a leprechaun? And if so, which one of us? Oh, that would be amazing. Well,
Mr. Basil? Mr. Basil, will any of the brothers be upset if I do voice a preference?
Well,
they won't go jumping off cliffs now.
No, you guys are pretty stable, right? Oh, we're stable. A broken heart's no reason to kill yourself. We'd just beat him up, though. We beat up the other one, but no one will die totally. Okay, well, so I guess that means it's safe then. Little bit of background about the boys. Boys, introduce yourself one at a time. Okay, I'm Feely. I'm the eldest of the brothers. I'm 4'2", approximately 110 years of age, and I have ruddy brown beard and hair, and I like to sit back on the porch and drink lager and talk and sing about the old Ireland, the one before your parents and maybe before their parents too. So that's me, Feely, the oldest and probably the most handsome. Okay, you're next, Neely. Oh, I'm Neely. I'm 97 years old. I'm 4'1", and I've got a dark brown beard and hair. And I like building stuff and climbing things and smashing things too. I like unbuilding stuff. That's a lot of fun. Oh, and I really like Gordon Lightfoot music and eating fish and chips. Crunchier the better. So that's That's me. Vote for Neely. That's me. Okay, Buffin, you're next. Oh, I'm Buffin. I'm 83, so I'm a lot younger than the other two, which means I'm not decrepit like Feely and Neely. I'm 3'8" ish. I got dark blonde hair and beard, but sometimes when I get nervous, I get uncontrollable hiccups. But I'm not hiccuping now, which means I am at peace talking to you. So that's something you might want to consider. And finally, our little brother. He's next. Berthold, you come. Oh, hi. I'm Berthold. I'm the little one. I'm the youngest at 66 and 33, both. I'm about 3'8" plus, a little bit taller than Buffin, but not as giant as my brothers. I've got ruddy brown hair, but I don't grow a beard very well, maybe because I'm so young. I've got some freckles, and I get counted twice in age at 66 and 33 because of something that Buffin did to me a long time ago when I was 33. And he hit me on the head and killed me. And I was dead for a little while. And then Da came in and saw me laying there, and he felt upset about it. And he kicked me in a place where, well, it wasn't a very comfortable place to get kicked. And it woke me up from the dead, would you believe? So I've been resurrected, and I came back. And somehow or another, after Buffin hit me on the head, I learned all kinds of languages, too. They just, came to me. Like Mandarin, for instance. Who knew that an orange had its own language? Amazing. So, but I speak them all now. And originally, by the way, Buffin was called Keely, which maybe is why he tried to kill me. And but after he hit me in the head and I came back, they named him Buffin because he buffed me in the head. See, so that's a little history about him. Do we have the cell phone vote thing like they do on Britain's Got Talent? You know, they say dial dung ding ding dong dong and vote for your person, right? Do we have that? No, we don't have that. We're not that technically. We don't have that. So
we have the Bachelor, though. We have the Bachelor.
Oh, there we go.
We might go for that.
Yeah, we could do that.
Yeah.
We'll try. So dial ding dong ding dong ding and vote for Berthold. Okay, so there you go. With that information before you, which of the four of us might you choose to be your lawfully wedded munchkin?
Oh, my head is spinning, Basil.
They make my head spin a lot, too.
Oh, this is such a... I can believe that. Well, I have to confess, I have a little bit of a soft spot for Mr. Berthold because reading so much romance and so forth, he seems to be the kind of romantic hero, you know, because he's got a tragic story here. Yes. He's got a sensitive heart and he's very good at languages. So he could help me do my research and I could maybe listen to him for some help with accents and so forth. I think we might be a marriage made in heaven.
I love that idea. See, brothers? She voted for Berthold. Okay, well, oh, wait, you got a husband already, right? So he'd probably get mad.
I do.
But you know, I could be your shelf leprechaun. I'll just sit in the studio and do stuff for you. And I could click buttons.
Yes, you could.
Even. I'm good at clicking buttons and telling stories. So, well, that makes my day. I'm happy now. Okay, I'm going to go lay in the sun on the hammock and just think about imagining what if. And maybe I'll compose a tune for you. Oh, don't sing, Berthold. You're good at some stuff, but singing, you don't scare the women away. All right, well, the rest of us are sad and depressed, and we're going to go beat up our brother. But...
Oh, no, don't do that. It was a very close-run thing. It was just the languages and, you know, his romantic history swung the deal. But it was very hard for me to make that decision.
I see. So basically what you're saying is the beating that I gave him 33 years ago is what caused him to be the one that you like. Oh, yeah. So, okay, we're going to go beat up Buffin instead. All right. It was nice talking to you, Anne. We'll see you later. And
Thank you. It was
thank
lovely
you
talking
guys.
to you.
Thank you guys very much for stressing out our guest. And and thank you very much for being on the show. It was a great chat with you, and I look forward to seeing. Are you going to be in Chicago next year for APAC?
Absolutely.
Yes.
You going to?
I am going to make it my best. This year, I'm actually
Oh.
going to 2 conferences. I went to APAC, and then I'm going back to New York in about 3 weeks for the International Thriller Writers, since I'm a writer as well. And after
Oh,
going to both of these in 1 year, my wife made me promise to do one every other year rather than going to both every year, at least until I make $1 million or whatever, make enough money to do that. But yeah, Chicago is going to be on my thing for next year.
great. See you then.
So, yeah, absolutely. And About Town on Facebook and your website. Your website is annflosnik.com?
It is.
Okay.
Yeah. What's yours? Is it basilsands.com?
It sure is. Having a unique name or unique-ish name makes it so much easier to have people find you out there. We don't have to come up with all kinds of funny words and all that stuff, So, well, it's been great chatting with you. And tell the audience goodbye.
Farewell, audience.
All right then, what do you think about that, brothers? Anne chose me. Yeah, well, she chose you in the same way that one might choose a fantasy football team. You got your soccer, you got your goalie and you got your left winger and your right winger and your half backs and so on, but they're not your real team. They're just a fantasy thing, so dream on, little brother. Well, I'll be dreaming on, but I'll have good dreams while you have dreams of rejection. Ha ha, how about that, big brother? The rest of us, me and Neely, we got some input into this too, That's right, we all 3 got input into it. What do you have to say, Neely and Buffin? Well, I say that Berthold won fair and square, but since it's a fantasy, it doesn't really matter anyway. So live it up, little guy. Well, you got the imagination to do so. In the meantime, I'll just settle for, the best anyway. Because it's not nice having your heart broke like that. I'm out of here. Oh, don't go feeling that way, Buffin and Neely. You don't have to worry about a broken heart. Like you said, it's just an imagination. I'm still your brother. Even though the lovely lady Anne Flosnik chose me above you, it doesn't mean that I'll be any less kind towards you. Oh, yeah, okay, well, that's good then, thanks. Anyway, the show is copyright 2015, Sandman Production Studios and Basil Sands. And we'll see you later. We're going to enjoy this nice weather. Maybe we go camping this weekend. What do you think about that? Yeah, definitely. Let's go camping in the RV. Think Basil will let us drive? I don't think so.